Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, it's time to stop being a noob. It's time to go pro. I'm going to be covering everything you need to know about the Arms Warrior when it comes to PvP, so you can start smashing the competition. Now, the first thing with Arms Warrior that you're going to want to make sure that you're doing is keeping hamstring on the target. This is going to be a powerful snare. You also have Piercing Howl for AoE snares when multiple enemies are grouped up. This is a very important component that a lot of Arms Warriors are missing out on. Now, when going after something like a Hunter, you generally want to be stun locking them and then swapping when they start kiting you, and you want to be peeling for your allies, especially your healers. So you can see me coming back here towards the Holy Paladin, shockwaving the Demon Hunter and forcing them away from our healer. We have tools like Intervene and stuns and high pressure damage and mortal wounds to force enemies away from our healer, and then stack them up on the opposing side like this, where the Hunter and Demon Hunter are now closer together. With Arms Warrior in the current build that you're going to be running, which is in the description down below, you do kind of want to just shove your cooldowns as frequently as possible, because you're going to be reducing many of them through your talents, and you're just going to get more value in exchange for just using them in a lot of cases. So Blade Storm and Avatar and Warbreaker, these are things that you generally want to be sending as frequently as possible, as well as things like Stormbolt and Shockwave. Although Stormbolt and Shockwave you can also time at more critical moments to try and break chain CC on your healer. Like for example here, my Paladin was imprisoned, so I double Shockwave the DPS so they can't attack us while our healer can't heal. That's generally like, you know, a high value stun. Here we move for a fear onto the Restoration Shaman. The reason we want to fear the healer in this matchup is, well, the Hunter's about to die, and the other added benefit of fearing the healer in this position is that they can Tremor Totem their allies out, but they can only pre-Tremor themselves, which allows you to kill that Tremor Totem and then get a full fear onto the healer. There are some instances where you will want to fear DPS. That is when DPS have ways to remove fear from their healer, or if you can't cross CC them with a stun, something like an Enhancement Shaman or a Ret Paladin with Sanctuary and Tremor, or an Elemental Shaman, you want to stun those, then fear the healer, or fear those DPS targets to try and peel for your allies. It also depends on how fragile your partner class is. So we were able to crush that first game. So we're moving to the next one. Main goal, get hamstring up, start getting our cooldowns and our rend up through Thunderclap as soon as possible. I Sweeping Strikes almost just right away, and I just want to get as much rend damage as possible to tick for these proc executes, which are going to be the main staple of your burst. I see an opportunity to fear the Resto Shaman without having to use mobility, so we're going to fear the healer, charge, double Shockwave. This is a beautiful offensive setup. We're going to Dragon Roar. This is going to go through Blur and start enabling our dot damage to do a lot more. Here we see Essence Break from the Demon Hunter, that purple icon, so we're going to intervene the Hunter, redirect some damage with Die by the Sword up, so that way we're going to be stable during that intervened damage. We use Stormbolt as a ranged stun on the healer against double melee, and we're going to use Shockwave as the main stun onto the DPS. This way we can disrupt some healing and also stabilize our team defensively. We're going to continue training down the Demon Hunter. When you're playing with a class like a Marksmanship Hunter, they do lower damage to higher armor targets. So classes like that do purely physical damage, you want to be attacking the Leather class, the Demon Hunter, and not the Plate class, the Death Knight. That isn't to say that you don't want to cleave them. You want to have bleeds up. Here's Stormbolt the healer, Shockwave a DPS, and just keep hammering down those executes. We get pretty much every cooldown from the Demon Hunter here. We're just going to poke the Resto Shaman, force him away from the fight while Nether Walk is up and the Demon Hunter is immune to damage. We're going to continue to slam down those execute procs. We miss our Warbreaker here, which is actually a big mistake, because you are going to be playing the AoE version of Warbreaker. It has a minimum range. You have to really make sure that you're in range for landing that ability, because I just missed out on a huge amount of damage on the Demon Hunter here that could have actually decided the match. And this is why going back and watching your gameplay is also a great tool for improvement, not only just watching other players' guides and stuff, but recording and watching your own gameplay. Now here I see an opportunity. The Shaman is nearby, so I'm going to toss out a fear onto him whenever I see the healer nearby like this, where I don't have to use a ton of mobility to get crowd control. And I kind of mix the script. I Shockwave him out of that. This could also lead to being a mistake. The main reason I did this was because the Demon Hunter was already on stun DR, and I just wanted to continue that chain. The Demon Hunter was getting low. Our Hunter kind of trolls us here, trapping the Demon Hunter a little bit low health. We don't have much CC, so I'm trying to line up a Sharpened Blade Stormbolt. So we Sharpened Blade him low health, we Stormbolt him, and we managed to dunk him down with some executes. I thought I was going to get trolled in the last couple of seconds of that round, but we were able to finally close it out. So balancing both offense and defense is really the difficulty, the highest level of the Warrior. You can get by with just making sure that you're keeping your slows up and you're basically just pressing your damage cooldowns on cooldown and you're stunning the things that you want to attack. You can generally go pretty far with that, but mixing in opportunities opportunities when you see the healer nearby to Stormbolt or the healer nearby to Fear, and then saving abilities like Intervene to get back to your DPS so that you can hit the thing that you're looking to attack. And mixing in offense and defense is going to be where you like fully unlock the potential of the ping pong warrior, which is really enjoyable once you get there. So we're going to Sweeping Strikes. You're piercing Howl the Death Knight and all his pets. I don't want him getting into the fight before I can get a Thunderclap on all of his pets. That way we got Ren ticking away and working towards getting us a proc Execute. That again is like going to be the main thing that's generating the engine of our damage. We're waiting for the Hunter to come out. You want to be pressuring the Hunter and keeping him on the move so he's not just stationary casting aim shots. So we're going to charge over. We Blade Storm with Avatar almost right away with Warbreaker again to start resetting those cooldowns. And that's going to generate a huge amount of pressure with Mortal Strike getting damage buffs and the strength increase after a Blade Storm. Death Knight does a good job, though, of crowd controlling us and limiting our burst. And the Hunter's doing a good job of getting a lot of distance. Now, when we have Searing Glare on us, you want to use things like Ignore, Pain, and Victory Rush to heal and shield yourself, because if you use any damaging attacks, they're just going to miss. And you don't want to waste global cooldowns. So spend some of your rage on those healing and defensive abilities during Searing Glare. We're going to leap over to the Hunter, reconnect, get Hamstring. We Stormbolt, disengage. And I found this to be the best way to deal with Hunters is to save your stun. A really skilled Hunter is going to save their disengage, save their Master's Call. And when they use those abilities, you can't snare them. So they're moving at full speed. Your only way to really catch them is to stun them. So saving your Stormbolt when trying to chase down Hunters and trying to stun their disengage and stun their Master's Call is usually going to be the highest value time. Our healer's crowd controlled here, so we use Intervene over onto the Demon Hunter, redirect some damage to ourselves, and then we just continue to keep pressuring down the Hunter. Trying to keep the Hunter on the move as marksman is going to be the main goal, but we're really getting kited. He's got a freedom, but he's on stun DR, so we can't really stun him, and that's kind of unfortunate. In Solo Shuffle, our Demon Hunters put him on stun DR. We charge over, we go for a Stormbolt, but he pre-placed this Root Trap. So generally, with Hunters, it might be wise to save at least either Blade Storm or Avatar to proc Blade Storm when you get rooted, because you're going to get rooted a lot. Here we get Searing Glare up again onto ourselves, so I should have used Ignore Pain here based on my advice, and we're looking to try and just get back to the Hunter as soon as possible. Again, with double freedom on the palette, it's really rough, so I go for a Blade Storm, but it could be wise here to save it. I get a double Shockwave on his disengage. You can try and stun it like right away, and you'll be able to clip their mobility most of the time. Hunter is usually one of the most difficult classes in order to maintain your uptime and actually connect to, with Mage likely being the most difficult, especially when they have Paladins for freedom. So we're Blade Storming out of that snare Root Trap there, trying to get back to the Demon Hunter, stack up for the Link. We get a stun here on the Marksmanship Hunter. We're going to stun his Trinket, just trying to hold him in place as long as possible. But he's got Roar Sacrifice up, so we're not able to critically strike him during this Warbreaker moment, but we still want to attack him, hammer down Cleave with the Sweeping Strikes, keep Thunderclapping the pets, keep the Rens going for Execute procs, try and get our pressure going. We get Freezing Trapped here, and sometimes when Hunters get low health, they will trap you, so you can try to Spell Reflect whenever a Hunter is getting low and anticipate that they're going to trap you. Searing Glare hits us again, so we're going to use Ignore Pain. We're going to not really spend any of our rage until Searing Glare fades, because we're not going to be able to get it back. We see Freedom up, but we're going to charge him after the Freedom ends, so he gets charge rooted. Our Demon Hunter's getting really low. We got no Intervene, but I did have a Defensive Fear here, and I could have pressed Defensive Fear onto the Death Knight and the Hunter and possibly bought a global for our Resto Shaman. And this is what I mean by being able to flex between offensive and defensive moves. In that instance, I could have likely feared and maybe bought him time, just enough time to survive, and we're actually really close to the kill in that position. So going back, looking at the gameplay, reviewing the tiniest little things you could make, you want to be always looking at what's available to you at any given moment and seeing like what's the best way I can use this in this situation. And that's what makes Arena honestly really fun, is the versatility and the flexibility of that strategy decision making of where are you going to allocate all these resources. So we've got the Hunter again. We're going to get in, hamstring up, try and get a Thunderclap, get that on all the Death Knight pets. Really important to be Thunderclapping when there's lots of pets around. That way you're going to be getting tons of Execute procs. You're having a lot of fun. Demon Hunter jumps into the mix, so we can just get a double Shockwave, Stormbolt the Paladin. This is a really good offensive opener. It gets Icebound Fortitude from the Demon Hunter, or from the Death Knight, and we're just hammering down the plate guy only because the leather guy is running away. You generally don't want to chase almost ever because you're going to get snared up. It's going to be difficult. So once the Demon Hunter actually commits, we're going to start damaging him. Sharpened Blade, big burst, another Blade Storm, stacking up that strength, working towards getting some Execute procs to get a ton of damage. But as soon as this Demon Hunter goes behind the pillar, you kind of got a weird choice of either chasing him or staying with your team. And I generally don't like getting baited behind the pillar. So this is a common mistake I see warriors making, is that they'll just follow somebody no matter where they go. And the thing is, if your team can't back you up, you're going to get kited and not connect, and then your ally isn't able to hit anything, and you're completely discoordinated. I saw the Paladin nearby, so we're going to fear him. I went for a Shockwave. I really wanted to hit the Death Knight and the Demon Hunter, because the Demon Hunter was on DR, but it would have been full on the Death Knight, so you get a little double stun value. Unfortunately, they kited it. Trinket's out of the trap, which is super risky, so we're going to Sharpen Blade him. I see Explosive shot up. Sharpen Blade is going to reduce healing during high burst moments. It's generally really good for pressuring when the healer isn't crowd controlled. So we get a Hex here. Blur is up, but you can attack through Blur with things like Thunderclap. You can also stun Blur and then continue to attack through it. So against Demon Hunter, you can save it for those moments. Generally, you're not going to want to always do that. You probably want to stun them before they've gotten Blur up, but you can attack them if there's moments where they could die. Here, we could have used Rallying Cry. Our Hunter just got bursted. There was no turtle, no link. Sometimes there's a surprising a lot of damage. Generally, you want to be, not just paying attention to Zug, but also slow the game down for your team. Now, my teammates could have used cooldowns in response to that, but I had a tool that could have slowed the game down slightly that made their reactions to it a little bit more feasible. So I could have used Rallying Cry there, bought him maybe a second, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm in trouble. I need a turtle or get a link off. So you do want to take that into account. While Rally probably wouldn't have saved him 100% on its own, it likely would have bought at least another second for somebody on the team to have more time to respond. And all you can do in PvP is really control what you're doing, especially solo shuffle. So in this instance, that is something that I could have done here at the last second. We're going to charge in. I see Freedom on the Hunter, so we're going to stun him, and we go immediately for a Blade Storm. We want to get that strength buff as soon as possible, and we're just hammering down massive executes. With double melee, though, you do generally chase. It's only when you have a ranged class on your team where you're not going to chase. So with double melee, we're going to chase the Hunter around the corner, back into the pillar, and continue hammering damage down. Death Knight got a double blind there on the healer and the Demon Hunter, which is putting us into a decent spot. Here we see Essence break up. I pop out a Piercing Howl trying to root the Hunter in place, double shockwave them on their cooldowns. So we're stunning in place to attack and stunning their cooldowns. That's a high value stun, and most players will trinket that. So they did actually both trinket that shockwave. We were stopping their cooldown damage and amplifying our damage. That's a super high value stun to try and look to. We're continuing to Thunderclap, keep the Rens up, keep sweeping strikes up. We want to cleave the Demon Hunter or the Hunter Pet. Sometimes you can just kill the Hunter Pet and then he's kind of just, helpless or has to turtle to be able to resurrect it. We get an Asphyxiate here onto the Hunter, so we're really hammering down damage. Blessing and Protection comes up. So we toss out a Piercing Howl, trying to root up the melee attackers while my Death Knight continues to chase, but we're going to swap off that Blessing and Protection. We don't have enough. We can overpower and stun this Blur, and this is what I mean by you can kill a Demon Hunter through Blur if you have a stun or overpower charges. So we get his Nether Walk on top of it, as well as a Bop and a Bubble from the Paladin, because we were aware of that, saved it for that moment. Now our Death Knight's getting low. We rally in this instance. It buys it an extra second, and the Shaman is able to get the Spirit Link Totem off. So this improvement here towards the awareness of that utility has now put us in a much stronger position for round 5 moving into round 6. We get Freezing Trapped. We're not really able to help. We're spamming Intervene. Our healer is interrupted. Our Death Knight is low. So Intervene here is going to redirect damage to ourselves. You can die by the sword when you intervene. During powerful cooldowns, you're usually going to want to. So I die by the sword here. It's a couple seconds later. We're going to Victory Rush, stun up the Hunter because our healer is crowd controlled, and just go for an Avatar Blade Storm. We got to be racing down this guy as fast as possible. We're running out of options here to try and keep him alive. He's at 1%, and our offense has actually put the Hunter into Aspect of the Turtle. We're going to Shockwave the Demon Hunter. We're just trying to full peel mode while he's at 10% by any sort of opportunity. Demon Hunter flies in the sky. We charge over to the Hunter, and he ends up going down to a Death Coil. So sometimes offense is good defense. We pressured the Hunter so heavily that he had to go in Aspect of the Turtle, which meant he couldn't attack, which meant he couldn't finish the target off. So sometimes pressuring with damage is actually a good defensive tool as well in this instance, and it was the only option that I had at that moment. It's not like I had a Fear available, an Intervene available, or something that could peel. My only option was I need to go for it and hammer as much damage as possible and win the race, which, like I said, this is what makes PvP fun. This is what makes Warrior really fun at the moment, and a spec that I'm really enjoying and loving. Here we're in the final round. Goal is going to be attacking the Hunter, keeping him on the move, keeping Thunderclaps up onto the pets, keeping Hamstring up, trying to stun the Freedoms as much as possible. Here we only have to deal with one Freedom, the Master's Call. We get those Thunderclaps out onto the pets, get Mortal Strike out. We're just going to poke the Death Knight. As we're looking for the Hunter to get out of stealth, we Shockwave the Death Knight in his cooldowns. I see the Hunter will charge over for a Fear because the Hunter is nearby. It's a nice use of double mobility advantage there. Blade Storm out of the root to try and reconnect. He's using Cheetah and kiting me, so again, I'm not going to chase for just an instance here, and I see my Demon Hunter not chasing. So we're just going to go back to the Death Knight, and we're going to hammer all of our cooldowns in onto the Death Knight because the Hunter is playing like full turtle mode. And with Chains of Ice on us from the Death Knight, unless the Paladin is good at coordinating Freedoms, is going to be really rough to be able to stick. But we do ultimately want to try and make it back to the Hunter, but you don't want to be doing nothing while the Hunter is like this. So I see the Hunt go out from my Demon Hunter, and that was onto the Hunter, but he gets gripped off. So again, this Death Knight's just doing a good job of protecting the Hunter and making it really difficult, but we do want to make it eventually. So we charge over with the Storm Bolt. We're waiting for our stun, and we get a ton of pressure just with that stun alone. So making swaps with stun can be a good idea if you're fighting really slippery Hunters. I see them stacked up, get a double Shockwave. That forces Icebound Fortitude from the Death Knight. Always look for value on those Shockwaves. I want to be trying to get multi-target. If you're in a desperate situation where you need to hit a single target, you're going to hit the single target and go for it, but it's a higher value if you can hit 2. We get a Colossus Smash here with a Warbreaker, Sharpened Blade, and this is Execute procs, tons of damage. He's not really able to kite us. He's going to move out of the Earthen Wall Totem. I see his disengage, so we can Stormbolt him here. It wouldn't be too bad. We actually get stunned before we can do it, but using Stormbolt during disengage is a good idea. So we Stormbolt him, and we're able to chop him up, execute him down, pop over the 2300. I've been working hard here to try and get to the elite sets. I want to start unlocking some of those elite weapons, and I wanted to drop some knowledge that I've been able to gather in my journeys on the Arms Warrior so far for Dragonflight Season 3. So if you enjoyed this video, please thumbs up, comment down below with your thoughts. What would you like to see in the future? You can watch me live. I stream, and it's linked in the description down below. So other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.